He was the most powerful man in the Emirates, a billionaire sheikh feared by businessmen and respected by kings. No one ever questioned his orders, until the day he told his guards to throw a poor American nanny out of his palace. What happened next would shake every belief he ever had about power, pride, and love. Because when she lifted her face to look at him, he saw something that stopped his world, something that would change both of their lives forever. This is not just a story about wealth or authority. It's about humanity. How one look, one moment, one heartbeat can rewrite everything we think we know about destiny. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications, because what happens in this story will leave you breathless and make you believe in second chances again. The palace of Sheikh Amir al-Fahad shimmered like a mirage in the desert heat. Built from white marble and glass, it seemed untouchable, just like the man who owned it. Inside, servants moved in silence, their steps echoing through endless halls filled with gold, rare paintings, and the weight of one man's authority. Sheikh Amir sat in his private lounge, overlooking the endless dunes beyond his window. His expression was carved from stone, unreadable, perfect, and feared. In his hand, a silver pen spun idly above a stack of financial reports. He had built an empire from nothing. Oil, aviation, technology, all of it bowed to his name. But in that palace of luxury, warmth was a stranger. The morning calm shattered when his chief guard, Karim, entered abruptly. "Your Excellency, there's a situation in the children's wing." Amir's pen froze mid-spin. "Explain." Karim hesitated. "The new nanny arrived this morning. She claims she was hired through your personal assistant, but the paperwork—" "Then she shouldn't be here," Amir said sharply. "Remove her immediately. She's with the young prince now," Karim continued carefully. "The child seems to like her." Amir's jaw tightened. "I didn't ask if he liked her. I said remove her." Karim bowed. "As you wish, Sheikh." In the west wing of the palace, a small boy of 6, Prince Tariq, laughed for the first time in months. He sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by colorful toys. Across from him knelt a woman with soft blonde hair tied back in a loose ponytail and kind eyes that glowed despite the fatigue in her face. Her name was Emily Grace, and nothing about her belonged in this world of gold and silence. Her hands were rough from work. Her clothes, a simple linen blouse and jeans, looked embarrassingly ordinary among the staff's crisp uniforms. But she had something the palace had forgotten long ago: gentleness. "Your Highness, that's not how you build a bridge," she said, laughing softly as the boy stacked blocks into chaos. Tariq grinned, his dark eyes bright. "Then show me." She leaned forward, steadying his small hand. "There, see? You just needed balance." For a brief moment, the cold marble floor of the palace felt like home. That moment ended the second the heavy door burst open. Karim entered with 2 guards, his expression tight. "Miss Grace," he said, "you need to come with us." Emily looked up, startled. "Is something wrong?" "You're not authorized to be here." Her heart skipped. "That's impossible. I was told Sheikh Amir himself approved my position." "Enough," Karim interrupted. "Pack your things, now." Tariq jumped up, his small face filled with panic. "No, she stays. I like her." "Prince Tariq," Karim said gently, "these are your father's orders." Emily swallowed hard, her voice shaking. "At least let me speak to him, please. There must be a misunderstanding." The guards moved closer. "That will not be possible." But just then, a deep, commanding voice echoed from the doorway. "Let me decide what's possible." Every guard straightened instantly. Sheikh Amir al-Fahad stepped into the room, tall and imposing, dressed in a flawless white kandura. His eyes, dark, sharp, merciless, locked onto Emily like a hawk sizing up its prey. For a moment no one breathed. Emily turned slowly, meeting his gaze for the first time. She expected anger, but what she saw instead was something she couldn't name: confusion, shock, recognition. Amir's chest tightened. For the first time in years, he forgot to breathe. Her face, those soft eyes, that trembling mouth, it was as if a ghost had walked into his palace. "Who told you to bring this woman here?" Amir asked, his voice low, dangerous. Karim bowed quickly. "It was an error, Your Excellency. We are removing her now." Amir didn't answer immediately. He just kept staring at her. Emily felt her hands trembling but stood her ground. "With respect, sir, I'm not here to cause trouble. I was offered this job through a London agency. I needed the work. That's all." Her voice, quiet but firm, carried something pure, something disarming. Amir blinked slowly, his control faltering for a fraction of a second. He couldn't understand why his pulse was racing, why her presence unsettled him so deeply. "You will leave my home," he said finally, forcing steel into his tone. "But Now," Tariq ran forward, clutching Emily's hand. "Father, please, don't make her go. She makes me laugh." For a moment, something broke in Amir's expression, a flicker of emotion quickly buried beneath authority. He looked down at his son, then back at the trembling young woman before him. Karim reached for Emily's arm to escort her out. But then Amir said quietly, almost to himself, "Wait." Everyone froze. The Sheikh's gaze softened as he studied her face again. It wasn't just her features, it was something deeper. Her memory clawing its way back from the dark. "What did you say your name was?" he asked. "Emily Grace," she whispered, and that was when it hit him. Grace. His hand tightened at his side. That name belonged to someone from another life, someone he had lost long before the wealth, before the titles, before the walls he built around his heart. He took a slow step forward. "Your mother's name," he said softly, "was Margaret Grace, wasn't it?" Emily's eyes widened. "How do you know that?" Amir didn't answer. His breath caught, and for a moment the billionaire sheikh, feared by all, looked like a man seeing a ghost from his past. "Leave us," he ordered the guards quietly. "All of you." Karim hesitated. "Your Excellency." "I said leave us." The guards obeyed, closing the heavy doors behind them. Silence filled the room. Amir looked at Emily again, his voice rough with disbelief. "You shouldn't be here." "Not after all these years." Emily frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" But Amir didn't answer. His gaze fell on her trembling hands, her frightened eyes, and something inside him cracked open. He realized with dawning horror that this wasn't just a stranger. It was someone connected to the one mistake that had haunted him for decades. And now, fate had brought her right back into his palace. The next morning, Sheikh Amir stood by the massive window of his study, staring out at the desert as the sun climbed above the dunes. The palace shimmered like gold, but all he could see in his mind was her face. Emily Grace. That name had stirred, something long buried, a part of him he'd sealed away with wealth and power. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her mother's face, Margaret Grace, and the day he had failed her. A knock echoed against the door. "Come in," he said. Karim entered, his posture tense. "Your Excellency, the woman, the nanny. She's still here." Amir turned sharply. "Still here?" "She refused to leave until she spoke with you. She said you owe her an explanation." For a moment, silence filled the air like pressure before a storm. "Bring her," Amir said finally. Minutes later, Emily was escorted into the study. She walked with her head high, though her hands trembled. She wore the same simple clothes as before, her face pale but resolute. Amir turned slowly to face her. In the sunlight, his eyes seemed darker, sharper, but there was something else there now. Curiosity. Regret. Emily took a cautious step forward. "I'm sorry for barging in again, but I need to understand what's happening," she said quietly. "You looked at me yesterday, like you'd seen a ghost." Amir folded his arms behind his back. "Perhaps I did," she frowned. "What does that mean?" He walked toward his desk, picked up a small photo frame, one of the few personal items in his office. It showed a young woman with the same kind eyes as Emily, standing beside a man in a simple workshop. "My father once worked for a woman named Margaret Grace," Amir said slowly. "She helped him during the war, gave him shelter when no one else would. She saved our lives. And then She disappeared. Emily's breath caught. That's my grandmother. Amir looked at her, and in that moment the world seemed to stop. The connection between them, the history neither of them understood until now, hung in the air like a secret finally exhaled. I was a boy when she vanished, Amir said, his voice softer now. All these years I thought she was gone forever, and now her granddaughter stands in my palace. Emily blinked rapidly, struggling to hold back tears. She used to tell me stories, she whispered, about a little Arab boy she once helped, the one who gave her a gold coin as a thank you. She kept it her whole life. Amir's throat tightened. He reached into his desk and pulled out a coin, old, worn, its edges faded by time. Then she wasn't lying. He placed it on the table between them. The silence that followed was heavy, sacred. "Why did you come here, Emily?" Amir asked, finally, breaking the stillness. She hesitated. "To work, to survive." Her voice trembled. "I didn't know who you were until I walked into that room. I just needed to send money back home. My mother's sick, and I can't afford her treatment." Amir leaned forward slightly. "And your father?" Emily's jaw tightened. "Gone!" The sheikh nodded slowly, processing every word. "You could have worked anywhere. Why here?" Because this was the only place that said yes. Something inside him shifted. He had spent his life building walls between wealth and poverty, power and weakness, past and present. And yet, in this fragile woman's eyes, he saw none of that mattered. She wasn't asking for pity. She was demanding dignity. At that moment, the door burst open again. Karim entered hurriedly. "Your Excellency, forgive me, but the board meeting is ready." "Cancel it," Amir said firmly. Karim froze. "But, sir," I said, "cancel it." The guard hesitated only for a moment before bowing and leaving the room. Amir turned back to Emily. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "Not until I understand why fate has brought you here." Emily frowned. "Fate?" "Yes," Amir said softly. "Fate has a cruel sense of humor." She smiled faintly, her fear giving way to curiosity. "You don't strike me as someone who believes in fate." "I didn't," he admitted, "not until yesterday." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The tension between them wasn't anger anymore. It was something heavier, something unspoken. Two souls circling an old truth neither of them could yet name. Finally, Amir sighed and gestured toward the window. "Come with me." They walked through the marble corridors in silence until they reached the palace gardens. The desert wind carried the scent of jasmine, and the air shimmered with heat. "This place was built to impress," Amir said, "but I've never brought peace here. Everything I've built feels empty." Emily looked around. The fountains, the sculptures, the endless walls of perfection. "Because it's missing people who care," she said softly. "Places don't need gold, they need warmth." Her words hit him harder than he expected. He turned to her, studying her expression, the honesty, the quiet strength. "Tell me, Miss Grace," he said, "do you speak this freely to every employer?" She met his gaze without flinching. "Only the ones who think money makes them untouchable." Amir's lips twitched, the faintest ghost of a smile. "You're bold. Just honest." For a man like Amir, who ruled through fear and silence, her defiance was both infuriating and magnetic. He hadn't been challenged like this in years, maybe ever. As the wind rustled through the palm trees, he found himself saying something he never planned to. "You may stay in the palace for now," he said quietly. "Not as staff, as my guest." Emily's eyes widened. "Your guest?" He nodded. "Until I decide what to do next." "But why?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Amir hesitated before answering. "Because I need to know what else you might remind me of." Their eyes met again, and in that moment something unspoken passed between them. Not power, not pity, but recognition. Somewhere deep down, both of them already knew this was only the beginning. Days turned into a delicate rhythm inside Sheikh Amir al-Fahad's palace. Emily Grace, once an unwanted intruder, was now an unexpected guest. Her room overlooked the desert, a golden sea that stretched beyond sight. But despite its beauty, she felt the weight of eyes watching her, servants pausing mid-step, guards exchanging whispers when she passed. She had become the palace's secret. Every morning, she took tea on the veranda, gazing at the dunes. Amir often joined her, though neither spoke much. Their silences had grown comfortable, the kind that said more than words could, but the staff didn't see it that way. Rumors spread like wildfire. "She's trying to seduce him," one maid whispered. "He's lost his mind." "Letting a foreigner stay in the royal wing?" said another. "Mark my words," muttered a guard. "Nothing good will come from this." Emily felt the judgment in every glance. It wasn't anger that burned inside her. It was shame. She had never wanted attention. All she wanted was to work, save her mother, and leave quietly. But now she was part of something she couldn't understand, something she feared would end badly. One evening, as the call to prayer echoed faintly across the dunes, Emily wandered through the palace corridors, lost in thought. The marble floors gleamed like mirrors beneath her bare feet. She paused by a massive painting, an image of a young Amir standing beside his late father. The resemblance was striking, but it wasn't the wealth or power that caught her eye. It was the loneliness in his father's expression, a look she had seen many times in Amir himself. "Staring at ghosts, Miss Grace." His voice startled her. She turned to find Amir standing a few feet away, dressed in a dark dishdasha, his usual composure softened by the warm light of the lamps. "I didn't hear you," she said with a nervous laugh. "I move quietly when I want to," he replied, stepping closer. "Old habits from dangerous times." Emily nodded toward the painting. "You were just a boy there, weren't you?" He studied it for a long moment. "Yes, that was the day my father made me promise never to let emotion guide me. A ruler's heart," he said, "is his greatest enemy." "And do you still believe that?" Amir turned to her, his gaze steady. "I used to. Until you arrived." Her heart skipped. The words were simple, but in that quiet corridor they felt impossibly heavy. She looked away, unsure what to say. "I didn't mean to disrupt your life," she whispered. "If I've caused trouble—" "You've caused clarity," he interrupted softly. That night, the tension in the palace thickened. The staff had noticed how often the sheikh spoke to her, how he lingered too long in her presence. By morning, the whispers reached Karim. "She must go," he told Amir bluntly in the private office. "It's becoming a scandal." Amir looked up from his desk, unamused. "A scandal?" "People are talking. The press will hear soon. You've already been seen walking with her in the gardens at night." "She's under my protection," Amir said coolly. "Protection?" Karim frowned. "Or distraction?" Amir's jaw tightened. "Mind your place?" Karim bowed his head. "Forgive me, Sheikh, but power draws eyes, and you, of all people, know the danger of compassion." For the first time, Amir had no answer. When Karim left, the room felt colder. He stared out the window, at the woman below, laughing with young Tariq by the fountain, and wondered if his guard was right. Later that afternoon, Emily found herself in the library. The room smelled of old books and sandalwood. She was tracing the spine of a worn Arabic poetry collection when she heard footsteps. "I didn't know you could read Arabic," Amir said from behind her. She smiled faintly. "I can't. I just like how it looks, the curves, the flow. It's calming." He moved beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat from his arm. "Do you always find beauty in things you don't understand?" "Only when they deserve it." Their eyes met, and the air shifted, dense, electric. For a moment, neither moved. Then suddenly the heavy door swung open. Karim stood there, his face pale. "Your Excellency," he said urgently, "there's a reporter outside the gates. They're asking questions about the foreign woman living in the royal palace." Amir's face hardened. "Who leaked it?" "We don't know." Emily stepped back, her stomach twisting. "I didn't mean to cause—" "Silence," Amir said sharply. "Not in anger, but in fear. Stay here. He stormed out, leaving her alone in the massive room, her heart pounding. An hour later, the palace gates were cleared and the reporter removed. But damage had been done. By sunset, Amir returned to the library. His composure was cracking. "You should leave," he said quietly. Emily froze. "What? It's no longer safe. They're watching. They'll twist everything. You, me, even Tariq. I can't let that happen. But I didn't do anything wrong." "I know," he said. "And that's exactly why it hurts." Her throat tightened. "So this is it?" Amir looked at her, the woman who had brought color into his silent world. "I will arrange your mother's treatment. You'll be taken care of." "That's not what I want," she whispered. "What do you want, Emily?" Her voice cracked. "You." The words hit him like a blow. For the first time, the great Sheikh Amir al-Fahad had no defense, no logic. No power could protect him from what he felt in that moment. He stepped closer, his voice trembling. "Don't make me choose between you and the empire I built." She took a deep breath. "Maybe it's time you realize one of them isn't worth keeping." He closed his eyes. "You don't understand what you're asking." "Then explain it to me." He didn't. Instead, he reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his fingers trembling. "If I let you stay, they'll destroy you. Then let me decide if I'm worth the risk." The Sheikh's hand dropped to his side. He turned away, his jaw tense, his heart breaking. And though neither said it aloud, they both knew. Destiny had already made the choice for them. The next morning, the palace woke to chaos. Phones rang endlessly. Advisors shouted across the marble halls. Security rushed to seal entrances. And at the center of it all, Sheikh Amir al-Fahad sat motionless at the head of a long table, his face calm, his silence more terrifying than any outburst. On the large screen before him, news outlets from London, Dubai, and New York blazed with the same headline: "Billionaire Sheikh hiding a Western woman in his palace, mystery nanny or secret lover." Dozens of photos accompanied the story. Emily walking through the gardens with Tariq, Amir at her side, the faintest smile caught by a telephoto lens. Kareem stood near the screen, his voice low and careful. "They claim you've abandoned business duties to be with her, that she's manipulating you. The board is demanding a statement." Amir didn't move. "Let them demand." "Sir," Kareem pressed, "they're threatening to pull investments. Half your partnerships are already freezing accounts." "If this continues," I said. Amir interrupted, his tone quiet but razor-sharp. "Let them demand." He finally stood, the white fabric of his robe flowing as he moved toward the window. The desert outside was calm, endless, unbothered. The world could burn, but the dunes remained eternal. He envied that. Across the palace, Emily sat in her room, trembling as she scrolled through the same headlines. Each image, each word felt like a dagger. Gold digger, foreign seductress, the Sheikh's mistress. Her phone buzzed with messages from the agency that had hired her. Furious, panicked. "You've ruined our reputation." One email read, "You'll never work again." Tears blurred her vision. She wanted to scream, to run, to vanish. But somewhere deep inside, another voice whispered, "Don't let them break you." A knock broke the silence. She quickly wiped her face. "Come in." It was Tariq, his little hands clutching a crumpled toy car. "Miss Emily, are you leaving?" Her chest ached. She knelt beside him, forcing a smile. "I don't know, sweetheart. My father looks angry," he said quietly. "But not like before, different, like he's scared." Emily swallowed hard. "Sometimes adults get scared too. Will you promise not to go?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I'll try." That evening, Amir entered her room without knocking. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes, those proud, dark eyes, carried exhaustion. "Pack your things," he said. Emily stood, her throat tight. "You're sending me away." "It's for your safety. The journalists have found where you came from. They've contacted your family." Her stomach dropped. "My family? You mean my mother?" He nodded once. "They offered money for her story. I've sent people to protect her." Emily pressed her hands against her face. "This isn't happening." Amir took a step closer, his voice softer. "It is. I've made arrangements. You'll stay in a secure house in Marrakesh until this dies down." She looked up, eyes glistening with anger and grief. "And what about you? You'll just go back to pretending none of this happened?" "I have an empire to run," he said quietly. "My people need me stable, not distracted." Her words came out before she could stop them. "So that's what I am, a distraction." He looked away. "You were a reminder of what?" she demanded. He hesitated, then answered softly, "Of who I used to be before I became this." The silence that followed felt endless. The next day, the board meeting convened. Amir stood before a semicircle of men in expensive suits, each more self-serving than the last. One of them, a silver-haired investor named Abbas, spoke bluntly. "You've humiliated this company, Sheikh. We demand that you address the media and deny any relationship with this woman." Amir's jaw tightened. "And lie? Call it what you want," Abbas snapped. "But your silence costs millions. Step down or fix this." Every man in the room turned toward him, waiting. Amir's pulse pounded, but his voice was calm. "You forget one thing, Abbas. This company exists because of my silence, not yours. You will never dictate how I protect my people." He turned sharply and walked out. Karim followed. "You can't fight everyone, Amir." "I don't have to," Amir said. "Just the ones who mistake decency for weakness." By sunset, the palace was eerily quiet. Reporters had been driven off by guards, investors placated temporarily. But Amir's kingdom had shifted. He could feel it. He stood on the balcony, the desert wind tugging at his robe. His thoughts swirled with Emily, her laughter with Tariq, her defiance, her eyes that saw through the armor he'd spent years building. Behind him, a soft voice broke the silence. "You never told me why you built this palace." He turned. Emily stood there, her face half lit by the fading sun. "I built it," he said, "because I thought walls could keep the world out." "And now?" she asked. He looked at her for a long time before replying. "Now I realize walls don't protect you. They just make you lonely." She stepped closer. "Then why send me away?" "Because I'm not the man you think I am," he whispered. "I destroy what I love." Her eyes filled with tears. "Then stop destroying it." For the first time, the great sheikh, the man feared across nations, faltered. He reached for her hand, but stopped just short of touching. "Emily," he said, voice raw, "if you stay, everything I've built could fall." She took his trembling hand in hers. "Maybe that's the point." At that moment, the door burst open. Karim again, his face pale. "Your Excellency, it's your mother." "She's collapsed." Amir froze. "Where?" "At the ancestral estate. She's asking for you." Without hesitation, Amir turned to Emily. "Stay here. Do not leave the palace." "Promise me." "I promise," she whispered. He touched her cheek. Just for an instant, then was gone. As the palace lights dimmed behind him, Emily stood on the balcony, the desert stretching endlessly before her. The night wind carried a sense of change, like the moment before a storm. She didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of the greatest choice she would ever make, because when Amir returned, nothing in their world would be the same again. The journey to the ancestral estate took hours across the desert night. Sheikh Amir al-Fahad's private convoy cut through the dunes under a canopy of cold stars. The hum of the engine was steady, but his thoughts were not. He hadn't spoken a word since the call. Every minute that passed replayed one memory after another. His mother's voice teaching him the Quran when he was a boy, her gentle hand on his shoulder the day his father died, her warning when he'd started building his empire. Power without humility turns kings into monsters. He hadn't listened. Not until now. When the car stopped at the marble steps of the old estate, the air was heavy with incense and fear. Servants hurriedly bowed as he entered, their eyes wet. The grand hall, once alive with music and laughter, now echoed only with the faint sound of prayers. Amir's mother, Layla, lay in her bed surrounded by candles. Her once vibrant eyes were dim, but when she saw him they flickered with light. "My son," she breathed, her voice fragile. "You came." He knelt beside her, taking her frail hand in his. "Of course I came. You should have told me you were ill." Her lips trembled into a faint smile. "Would you have come sooner if I had?" Amir lowered his head, guilt crawling up his chest. I've been blind, Mother. I thought protecting the family name meant protecting myself. Layla reached for his face with a trembling hand. And now? Have you finally found what truly matters? He hesitated. Emily's face flashed in his mind. Her honesty, her defiance, the way she'd looked at him when the world turned against them. I don't know, he admitted. But I think I'm beginning to. Layla's eyes softened, but a shadow crossed her face. Then there is something you must know. Something I've carried for years. Amir frowned. What do you mean? Her breath grew shallow. The woman in your palace, Emily Grace. You think fate brought her to you, but fate only reveals what men hide. He froze. What are you saying? Layla's eyes welled with tears. Her grandmother, Margaret Grace, she saved us, yes. But there's more. Your father owed her a debt, one he never repaid. What kind of debt? Amir demanded. Layla's hand trembled as she pressed it against his. When we fled during the war, your father was wounded. Margaret found us and nursed him. In those months, they grew close. Too close. The air left his lungs. You're telling me? Layla nodded weakly. There was a child, Amir, a daughter, born in secrecy, hidden to protect us both. Margaret left before I could stop her. She raised that girl in silence. He stood abruptly, the room spinning. No, that's not possible. It is, Layla whispered. That girl had a child of her own. Her name was Emily Grace. Amir's heart stopped. She is your blood, Amir, Layla said softly. Your half-niece. He stumbled backward, his knees nearly buckling. The candles flickered violently, their flames bending with the sudden wind. You're lying, he whispered. You must be mistaken. Layla's eyes glistened with sorrow. I wish I were, but I've kept this secret too long. It has poisoned us all. Does she know? Amir asked hoarsely. No, Margaret made me swear never to tell. She wanted the child to live free of our name. Amir turned away, his hand gripping the edge of the window frame until his knuckles went white. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, vast, empty, and cruel. He couldn't breathe. Everything he thought he knew, his father's honor, his own righteousness, his feelings for Emily, was collapsing into ruin. Mother. His voice broke. Why now? Because, she whispered, if you love her, you must love her the right way, by letting her go. He bowed his head, the weight of truth pressing him into silence. You're asking me to destroy what's left of my heart. Layla smiled faintly. I'm asking you to save hers. By dawn, Layla was gone. Her breathing had slowed through the night, her final words lingering in the air like smoke. Let love be the thing that redeems you, not the thing that ruins you. Amir stood outside the estate, the horizon painted in soft pink and gold. But there was no beauty in the sunrise, only the ache of realization. He climbed into his car and drove back toward the palace in silence. Every mile felt heavier. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. Emily's face haunted him, her laughter, her tears, her strength, the woman he had almost let himself love. Now he could never touch her again. Back at the palace, Emily sat on the steps of the garden fountain, feeding birds from her palm. Tariq played nearby, his innocent laughter echoing through the courtyard. When she saw Amir approaching, her smile faltered. You're back, she said quietly. He stopped a few feet away. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, dark, red-rimmed, broken, betrayed everything. I'm sorry, he said. For what? She asked. For not being honest about who I am. Or who you are, she frowned. What are you talking about? He swallowed hard. You shouldn't be here, Emily, not with me. Her brows furrowed. Why are you saying this? Amir took a breath, steadying himself. Because my mother told me something I can't ignore. Something about your family. Emily stood slowly, confusion in her eyes. My family? He nodded. Your grandmother and my father. They shared a past neither of us knew. And that past makes you... He hesitated, the words choking in his throat. It makes you part of my family. Emily blinked, disbelief washing over her. That can't be true. I wish it weren't, he said softly. But it is, which means everything between us. It can never be. She shook her head, stepping back. No, you're wrong. There's no proof, no. He reached into his pocket and handed her a small photograph. It was old, faded. A young Margaret Grace standing beside Amir's father, smiling, a baby in her arms. Emily's lips trembled. "That's my grandmother." "Yes," he said, his voice breaking. "And that child was my father's." Her breath caught in her chest. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clutched the photograph. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "Not after everything." Amir's eyes glistened, his control slipping. "I know, but I can't change the blood that binds us." Emily's voice cracked. "Then what are we supposed to do?" He stepped forward, his hand trembling as it brushed her cheek for the last time. "We survive. That's what we do." He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him, soft, broken. "You said once that walls make people lonely. So why are you building another one now?" He didn't answer, because she was right. But as he walked away, he knew the wall he was building now wasn't for pride or power. It was the only thing that could keep them from breaking completely. 3 days after the funeral, the palace grew quiet in a way that felt wrong. The staff whispered softly in corners, the air thick with the weight of unspoken things. The Sheikh's mother was gone, but something else had vanished too. Emily. Her room stood empty. The bed neatly made, her clothes gone. Her favorite book left open on the table beside a folded note. Amir found it before dawn. His name was written in delicate handwriting across the paper. Amir. He hesitated before opening it. The scent of jasmine still clung to the page. "I know now what you were trying to protect me from. But protection isn't love. It's distance dressed in kindness. I can't stay here, Amir. I'd rather lose everything than stay where love has to hide in shame. Please don't look for me. I need to find who I am. Without you, without this palace, without the ghosts of people I never knew. Tell Tariq I'll never forget him." Emily Amir read it again and again until the ink blurred under his tears, but of course he looked for her. By noon, his private jet was ready. He didn't announce his destination, not even to Karim. The Sheikh of Al-Fahad never explained himself. But this time, he wasn't a ruler chasing scandal control. He was a man chasing his own heart. He started in Marrakech, following the only trace his investigators could find. A woman matching Emily's description had boarded a bus heading north 2 nights before. From there, she disappeared into the chaos of Morocco's border towns, lost among the nameless, faceless millions who didn't belong anywhere. For 2 weeks, he searched every village and market. He questioned merchants, paid informants, and offered rewards. But every answer led nowhere. Each sunset bled into another night of silence. One evening, sitting alone in a desert cafe, Amir watched the horizon fade into the deep orange glow of dusk. The air smelled of mint tea and dust. He thought of the last thing Emily had said to him. "You said walls make people lonely," and she was right. He'd built walls his entire life, around his name, his wealth, his heart. Now he was trapped inside them, alone, holding the ashes of something that could have been beautiful. Back at the palace, Tariq waited every day by the gates, holding a small drawing of him and Emily under a palm tree. "Will she come back, father?" he asked one morning, his voice small. Amir knelt beside him, trying to find words. "Maybe not soon, my son. Did she stop loving us?" "No," Amir said softly. "Sometimes people leave because love hurts too much to stay." Tariq frowned. "Then I'll find her one day and tell her it doesn't have to hurt." Amir smiled faintly, his heart breaking all over again. "Maybe you will." A month passed. The scandal faded, the investors returned, the empire stabilized. But Amir did not. He spent his days buried in work and his nights alone in the garden where Emily used to feed the birds. Her laughter haunted every corner, the sound of life that had once dared to bloom in a place made of stone. One evening, as he stood by the fountain under a crescent moon, Karim approached quietly. "She was spotted in Fez," he said, "working at a small orphanage. No press, no attention. She's using her mother's maiden name." Amir didn't respond immediately. He stared at the moon's reflection in the water. "And she doesn't want to be found?" Karim nodded. "No, but—" "She seems happy." Amir exhaled slowly. "Then let her be. You could go just to see her," Karim suggested gently. He shook his head. "She left because of me, because of what I am." If I go back, I'll take that peace from her. Some things you protect not by holding on, but by letting go. But fate wasn't finished with them. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. No signature, no return address. Inside was a photo. Emily standing with a group of children, sunlight spilling over her face, a smile so pure it hurt to look at. On the back, one line was written, "I found my place. I hope you find yours too." Amir stared at the picture for a long time. Then for the first time in years, he prayed not for wealth, not for forgiveness, but for strength to live with the emptiness she'd left behind. That night, he walked barefoot through the desert outside the palace. The sand was cold beneath his feet, the sky wide and merciless. He remembered his mother's last words, "Let love be the thing that redeems you, not the thing that ruins you." And for the first time, he understood them. Months later, news quietly spread that Sheikh Amir al-Fahad had donated half his wealth to build a global foundation for education and orphan care, the Grace Foundation. When reporters asked why, he simply said, "Because someone once taught me what love really means." He never mentioned her name. He didn't have to. The world felt her presence in every act of kindness that bore his signature. Years passed. One afternoon, in a quiet village school in Fez, a young woman read a news article aloud to her students. Her hair had grown longer, her eyes softer. Children gathered around, smiling as she read. "The Al-Fahad Grace Foundation has opened another school for children in need," she said, "dedicated to those who believe compassion can build empires greater than gold." The children clapped. Emily smiled through tears. When they asked if she knew the sheikh, she paused, then said softly, "Once, and he changed everything." That night, as she walked home through the quiet streets, a black car slowed beside her. The driver lowered the window. Inside, an older man in a white robe sat with the window halfway down, the faint desert wind brushing his face. Their eyes met, neither spoke. He smiled, a small, tired smile that said everything words could not. Emily smiled back. Her eyes wet, her heart steady. The car drove away, leaving behind only dust and the sound of the call to prayer echoing through the fading light. And in that moment, under the setting sun, they both finally understood. Love doesn't always end with forever. Sometimes it ends with peace.